man can want you with everything he has, your smile stuck in his head like his favorite song, your scent still on his pillow, your presence haunting his thoughts when he's alone, but still not be ready to reach out. That's the confusing part. That's where your heart starts playing tricks on you, trying to make sense of why someone who clearly felt something so real could just go quiet. It's not that he doesn't miss you. It's not that he doesn't think about you every single day. The truth is, desire and readiness are not the same thing. See, desire is easy. It comes natural. It's emotional. It's impulsive. You see someone beautiful, intelligent, strong, and your spirit responds. A man can crave you just because of how you make him feel, because you bring peace to his chaos, because your words settle his mind, because being around you makes him feel like more of a man, but none of that means he's ready to be the man you need. Wanting you is emotional. Being ready for you, that's spiritual. That takes growth. That takes accountability. That takes healing. And not every man who wants you is prepared to carry what comes with you. Some men are still fighting battles you don't even know about. Pride, fear, insecurity, childhood trauma, failed relationships that damaged how they love. They're stuck in a loop, craving something real, but terrified of what it requires. Because when you show up as a whole woman, with standards, with self-respect, with goals, you're not just something to flirt with. You're someone to rise up to. And that scares a man who hasn't done the work. He'll sit there, phone in hand, typing and deleting, because the voice in his head is louder than the voice in his heart. He'll tell himself, she's better off without me. I'm not enough. I don't even know how to love her right. He won't say it out loud, but his silence is his admission. And yet, you're on the other side of that silence, blaming yourself, thinking maybe you were too much. Maybe you pushed too hard. Maybe you should have softened up. But don't carry that. Understand this. A man can be drawn to your light and still not know how to live in it. He can love your energy and still fear what it demands of him. Being ready for a woman like you takes more than attraction. It takes transformation. It takes a man stepping outside of himself, putting down his ego and saying she deserves the best version of me, not just the parts I'm comfortable giving. And here's the kicker. Some men will never get there. Not because they're evil, not because they don't care, but because growth is painful. Change is hard. Looking in the mirror and admitting I'm not enough yet takes a level of humility most people aren't taught. So instead of rising, they retreat. Instead of calling, they disappear. Instead of doing the work, they let the distance grow, and you're left wondering why. But it was never about your worth. It was about his readiness. Desire is a feeling. Readiness is a decision. Desire says, I want her. Readiness says, I will become what she needs. One is temporary. The other is eternal. So don't be fooled by silence. Don't romanticize the distance. Don't wait around for a maybe when you deserve a right now. Just because a man feels something for you doesn't mean he's capable of building something with you. Craving you is not the same as choosing you, and love that doesn't come with action is just noise. It's not enough for someone to miss you. If he's not willing to step forward, to do the hard work of being a partner, then let that craving stay with him. That's his journey to walk, not your job to wait for. He has to grow into the kind of man who not only wants you, but can also handle you, lead with you, and build with you. Sometimes when a man goes silent, it's not because he stopped caring. It's not because the connection meant nothing. It's not because you were too much, too intense, or too emotional. Sometimes silence is his way of saying, I know I'm not ready for you, and I respect you too much to keep pretending I am. It's easy to assume that if someone doesn't reach out, they must not care. But there's a deeper layer to it. Some men are very aware of what you bring to the table. They know exactly how powerful valuable and rare you are. And that's exactly why they disappear. See, when a man truly sees you, when he recognizes your worth, your energy, your intelligence, your expectations, it can shake something inside of him. It's like standing in front of a mirror that shows him everything he hasn't become yet. It's not that he doesn't want you, it's that he fears disappointing you. He knows that you're not the kind of woman who settles. You're not going to be okay with half-truths, mixed signals, or part-time affection. You're the kind of woman who demands presence, commitment, and emotional maturity. And if he can't provide that, his silence becomes his way of stepping back before he causes more damage. He's quiet because he knows he doesn't have the tools to love you right. He knows that his communication isn't strong enough, his consistency isn't steady enough, and his emotional availability isn't where it should be. And instead of saying, "I'm not ready," he just vanishes. It's not right, it's not respectful, but it's what some men do when they're not emotionally developed enough to have hard conversations. Silence becomes their safe place. But don't confuse that silence with indifference. Sometimes that silence is loud with insecurity, loud with confusion, loud with self-doubt. He might replay your conversations in his mind. He might scroll through your pictures, reread your text, think about calling you every day. But every time he gets close, that fear creeps in. That voice that says, "She's too good for me," or "I'll mess this up." Or worse, "I don't know who I am yet, so how can I lead with her?" And so he stays quiet, not because you're not on his mind, but because you are, and it terrifies him. You see, women often think that silence means they did something wrong, that they weren't good enough to keep his attention, that they made one mistake too many. But most of the time, it has nothing to do with you. It's him. His internal battle, his lack of clarity, his inability to rise to the level of love you deserve. And instead of facing that truth, he disappears. He chooses avoidance over accountability, distance over discussion. But here's what you have to remember. A man who knows he's not ready, but doesn't want to hurt you further, might actually think his silence is protecting you. Twisted as it sounds, in his mind, walking away without closure might feel like mercy. Because if he stays, he knows he'll fall short. He knows he'll say the right things and do the wrong things. He knows he'll make promises his spirit can't keep. And if he really respects you, even just a little, he might choose silence over damage. You deserve someone who doesn't just see your value, but feels capable of honoring it. A man who doesn't just crave your presence, but knows how to protect it, grow it, and match it. And that kind of man, he doesn't hide. He doesn't go ghost when things get real. He doesn't retreat when faced with your strength. He steps forward, he communicates even when it's uncomfortable. He admits when he's not ready instead of pretending he is. So don't let a man's silence make you question your worth. Don't let his emotional confusion become your emotional burden. If he's quiet, let him be quiet. If he's hiding, let him hide. If he walked away, don't chase. That silence is not rejection, it's revelation. It's revealing that he saw your light and didn't feel ready to walk in it. That's his journey, not your assignment. Let silence do what words couldn't, show you the truth. Not everyone who desires you is built for you, and not every man who sees your beauty can handle your depth. So let him wrestle with his silence while you keep walking in your power. It's easy to fall in love with potential. Easy to look at someone and see what they could become if they just put in the effort, just got serious, just healed what needed healing. You see glimpses of the man he could be, the way he talks about his dreams, the soft moments he shows you, the pieces of goodness that peek through when he's vulnerable. And so you wait, you hope. You start to build a future in your mind based not on who he is now, but on who he might become later. But that's dangerous. because potential is a promise without a guarantee, and you deserve more than just a maybe. Many women stay in almost relationships or emotionally empty situations because they're in love with what they believe a man could grow into. They think, if I'm patient enough, he'll come around. If I love him right, he'll rise up. If I support him through this, he'll finally see my worth. But here's the truth. Your love can make him grow. Your effort can make him ready. Your sacrifice won't force him to become the man you need. A man has to choose to grow because he wants to, not because you waited around long enough. Love is not a project. You are not a construction site. And relationships don't thrive off blueprints and wishful thinking. They grow in the now, not in the someday. And if he's constantly showing you inconsistency, confusion, or lack of accountability, that's not something to wait out. That's a pattern. And patterns don't change because you believe they will. They change because the person living them decides they want different. The dangerous part of holding on to potential is that it can blind you to reality. You start making excuses for the red flags because you're too focused on the future you imagine. You overlook the fact that he avoids tough conversations, that he doesn't show up emotionally, that he only gives you part of himself because you believe it's just a phase, just a rough patch. But while you're waiting for him to get it together, you're slowly draining yourself. You're shrinking your needs. You're silencing your voice. You're compromising on things that should never be negotiable, like your peace, your value, your time. Here's what's real. A man who's ready for you will not make you feel like you too much. He won't leave you guessing. He won't require a dozen chances to act right. And he sure won't lean on potential as a reason to keep you close while giving you the bare minimum. He'll show you who he is today, not just who he hopes to be one day. Because the man who is truly ready to love you doesn't wait until he becomes perfect. He starts with what he has and builds with you. Not off promises, but off presence. Not off dreams, but off daily action. And you have to love yourself enough to stop settling for almost consistent, almost committed, almost emotionally available. Almost is never enough when your heart is fully in it. You can't pour everything you are into someone who only gives you half of what you need. You can't keep extending grace to someone who isn't even trying to meet you halfway. Love is not a guessing game. It's not a puzzle you're meant to solve. It's not about how much you can endure before he sees the light. You are not hard to love. You are not too much. You are not asking for the impossible. You are asking for consistency, clarity, honesty, and emotional maturity. Basic requirements for a healthy relationship. And if someone keeps falling short of that, it's not your job to wait for them to rise. Let them rise on their own time. You keep moving forward on yours. Potential is a beautiful thing, but only when it's matched with action. Without action, it's just hope. And hope without effort becomes heartbreak. You can't build a future with someone who refuses to be present in the now. And no matter how much you want it, you can't create readiness in someone who's still hiding from their own growth. So believe what you see, not what you hope for. Don't fall in love with potential. Fall in love with reality. Fall in love with someone who shows up, not someone who might. Sometimes the loudest answer you'll ever get is silence. You keep checking your phone, scrolling through old messages, trying to make sense of how someone who once made you feel like you were the center of their world can now act like you don't exist. The truth is, if someone wanted to reach out, they would. If they truly cared in a way that demanded your presence, they'd find a way to make it known. But instead, you're left with silence, and as painful as that is, it's an answer. One that's honest, clear, and hard to hear all at once. Problem is, we often don't trust silence. We second guess it. We try to fill in the blanks with our own stories. We think, maybe he's just busy, or maybe he's waiting for the right time, or maybe he's scared to reach out. So we hold on, we wait. We start interpreting silence as mystery, when really it's just avoidance. But silence isn't always a puzzle to solve. Sometimes it's just what it is. A decision not to show up, not to communicate, not to choose you. When someone goes silent, you have to resist the urge to chase them for answers. That's one of the hardest things to do when you still care. You think if you just ask one more question, send one more message, explain your side one more time, maybe it'll all click for them. But here's the hard truth. Someone who truly values you won't need a reminder. They won't need to be begged. They won't go days, weeks, or months ignoring your presence if your presence actually mattered to them in a way that aligned with love. Their silence is a message. It's saying they're either unwilling or unable to give you what you need. It's saying they've made a choice, whether conscious or not to be in your life in a meaningful way. And that choice might be based on fear, immaturity, confusion, or selfishness. But either way, it's not your responsibility to unpack their silence. It's your responsibility to honor your own peace and protect your own self-worth. Too many people waste time overanalyzing why someone disappeared instead of accepting that they did. They stay stuck in memories, rereading conversations and wondering what they could have done differently. But healing doesn't come from analyzing someone else's silence. It comes from realizing that your value doesn't decrease just because someone couldn't recognize it. You were always enough. Their silence didn't change that. It only revealed their limit. And when someone chooses not to speak, not to reach out, not to clarify where they stand, they are in fact telling you exactly where they stand. A person who sees your value and wants to be in your life will make the effort. They'll show up even when it's uncomfortable. They'll communicate even when they're unsure. Because love, real love, isn't passive. It doesn't go quiet in the middle of the storm. It doesn't hide when it's time to show up. It stands up, it leans in, it chooses presence over absence, clarity over confusion, and effort over excuses. You don't need to chase after someone who's comfortable being silent. You don't need to beg someone to speak when they've already made it clear they won't. Let silence be what it is. Let it expose what you refuse to see. Let it teach you to stop chasing answers from people who were never ready to give them. The people who are meant for you will never make you feel like an option. They'll never leave you wondering where you stand. And if they do, that's your signal not to try harder, but to walk away. Silence can be one of the greatest forms of self-protection for someone who knows they're not ready to be held accountable. But that doesn't mean you have to suffer in that space. Let silence speak. Let it be the closure you never got in words. Let it show you that no answer is an answer. And it's more honest than 1,000 empty promises. If they're not calling, not texting, not checking in, not showing up, it's because they're not choosing you. And that may sting, but it's also freeing. It frees you from illusions. It frees you from waiting. It frees you to finally accept what is and move forward to what you truly deserve. Someone whose words match their actions and whose silence is only ever a pause, never a pattern. Real love doesn't need to be chased. It doesn't require you to constantly remind someone of your worth or beg for their attention. When a man is truly invested in you, he doesn't disappear and reappear when it's convenient. He shows up consistently because love, when it's real, doesn't need convincing. It doesn't need to be fought for in silence or defended with explanations. It simply is, and it speaks through presence, not promises. When someone truly loves you, they don't keep you waiting. They don't play emotional hide and seek. They don't go days without speaking to you and then return with sweet words expecting you to forget the pain their absence caused. They understand that love is not just a feeling, it's a responsibility. It's about showing up in the everyday moments, in the hard times, in the spaces where it would be easier to run or avoid. Because love isn't always about grand gestures. It's about consistency. It's about being there without being asked. A man who really sees you and values you will never leave you questioning how he feels. He'll make it known, not just through what he says, but through what he does, day in and day out. Real love is loud in its actions. It doesn't keep you in the dark waiting for crumbs of affection or clarity. It shows up at your door. It checks on you when you're silent. It puts in the effort without needing a reason. And when things get tough, it doesn't disappear. It leans in. But the truth is, many people get caught up chasing someone who only gives them moments of love. Someone who comes around when they feel lonely or when life gets quiet. Someone who remembers you only when everything else falls apart. And for a while, those moments feel like enough. You hold on to them, hoping they'll grow into something more. But love that only arrives in fragments will never make you whole. You can't build a future on scattered attention and inconsistent communication. When a man needs constant reminders of your value, he's not ready for the kind of love you bring. You're not supposed to teach someone how to see you. You're not supposed to perform for love. You're supposed to be loved exactly as you are, fully, freely, and consistently. That doesn't mean love is always easy. It means that even when it's hard, the right person doesn't retreat. They may stumble, they may have moments of weakness, but they won't vanish, because real love doesn't run when it's challenged. It rises. And you have to ask yourself, are you in love with who someone is or who they are when they miss you? Because there's a difference. Missing you isn't enough. Longing for you in silence, craving your presence in secret, thinking about you when they're alone, that's not love. That's nostalgia. That's regret. That's emotion without accountability. Love moves. Love acts. Love reaches out. And love doesn't sit back and hope you'll stay while offering nothing in return. You don't need someone who comes and goes like a tide. You don't need someone who only remembers your worth when they're about to lose you. You need someone who remembers it every single day and treats you like they do. Someone who knows that your heart isn't a backup plan or a second option. Someone who doesn't make you beg for time, attention, or clarity, because the right person won't need constant reminders. They'll make you feel seen without you having to ask. They'll give you peace, not confusion. Real love is steady. It doesn't flinch when life gets heavy. It doesn't need to be reminded of your value after every disagreement. It holds space for you even when you're not at your best. It communicates through silence and storms. It doesn't let days pass in distance, and it never needs to be begged for presence. You deserve someone who wakes up every day and chooses you, not just when they feel the loss of you, not just when they miss the comfort you bring, but because they recognize your presence as a gift. And that kind of love, it doesn't make you question, it confirms. It's solid, it's sure, and most importantly, it doesn't need reminders because it never forgets. Healing from someone's absence is one of the most silent, personal, and powerful journeys you will ever take. No one sees the moments where you stare at your phone and wish it would light up. No one knows how many nights you lie awake trying to figure out how it all went so quiet. People see the smile you wear during the day, but they don't hear the thoughts that race through your mind at night. The truth is, when someone walks away, when they choose silence over explanation, when they vanish without the courtesy of closure, it leaves you to do all the healing on your own. And that's one of the hardest parts, having to find peace in a situation that never gave you any answers. But healing isn't about waiting for closure from someone who didn't respect you enough to give it. It's about realizing that the closure you need doesn't come from them. It comes from within. You don't need someone to tell you why they walked away to validate your pain. You don't need them to explain their silence to prove that your feelings were real. What you need is to accept that sometimes people don't have the emotional capacity to love you the way you deserve. And that's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their limitations. It's easy to get stuck in the cycle of what ifs. What if I said this differently? What if I didn't push so hard? What if I gave them more space? But the reality is, someone who's truly meant to stay doesn't need perfect conditions to love you. They won't need to be handled delicately like glass. They won't crumble under honesty or hide from emotional depth. The right person will love you in the middle of your questions, through your fears, and even when you're still healing from your past. And if someone disappears the moment things get real, it says more about where they're at in life than anything you did or healing means letting go of the story you wrote in your head about how things were supposed to go. It means accepting that even though it hurt, even though it didn't end the way you wanted, it taught you something. It showed you what you won't tolerate next time. It taught you the power of self-respect. It reminded you that your heart is too valuable to be left on red, to be half-loved, or to be held in the hands of someone who isn't sure of you. The road to healing is not about forgetting someone. It's about remembering yourself. It's about reconnecting with your own voice, the one that may have gotten quieter when you were trying so hard to understand someone else's. It's about giving yourself the love you kept trying to give away. Because when someone walks away from you, you have a choice. You can either let it break you or you can let it build you. And that choice, while painful, is the beginning of real healing. You're allowed to miss them and still choose to move on. You're allowed to think about the good times and still know that walking away was the healthiest thing you ever did. You're allowed to grieve the relationship without grieving your self-worth. Because healing doesn't mean pretending it never mattered. It means acknowledging that it did and still choosing yourself anyway. Every day you choose not to reach out, not to beg for answers, not to chase someone who isn't chasing you back. That's strength. That's growth. That's healing. You're teaching your heart that it can survive heartbreak. You're reminding your spirit that your peace matters more than someone else's potential. And you're telling your future that you are making space for someone who will never make you feel abandoned in your need for love, consistency, or clarity. Healing is messy, it's nonlinear. Some days you'll feel free, and others you'll want to rewind everything and go back. That's okay. Let yourself feel it all. Let yourself cry. Let yourself remember, but then keep moving forward. Because the more you do, the more you'll start to realize that the pain doesn't own you anymore. The silence no longer defines you. And the person who walked away, they were never your final chapter. They were just a paragraph in your story. And the story isn't over. In fact, it's just beginning. You're learning to love yourself in a way that someone else didn't know how to. You're building the life you deserve, one where your peace isn't disrupted by someone else's confusion. And that kind of healing, that's the kind that doesn't just change your heart, it changes your life.